Now, is there anybody who is going into town when we're finished? Uh-huh.
Most
So,
of them.
okay, so I can ask for a ride to Smith Road. Thank you. Okay, Roberto, if there's any problem, we'll call you. Thank you. Okay, my name is Paula Grace Anderson Suarez, and I'll be with you for this course. Nice being here again, and I've met some of you before, and here we are again. I will not bring the textbooks for you until we're sure that in actual fact we are on staying. Could you please, sir, hand these out? Yes? And can you, Ms. Raquel, just
Is it okay for anyone who cares to record this?
yes.
It's okay.
Oh, yes.
So if
Definitely.
anyone wants to record it,
Yes,
wants to record
definitely.
it,
Uh-huh. Okay. Will somebody else please hand out for us? One minute. Will you remember? The blog address is www.gracegrssgct.com. Okay? Have we gotten that far? Yes. Okay? Okay. No, I prepared for 35 people because I wasn't sure if everybody was going to be here. Can you please? Okay. Can we begin again? No, we do have to turn off the cell phones because they can be very distracting. And the people in the back are a bit far from me. Can you just hold on a minute, please? Yeah. Okay. You should have 3 handouts so far. Roberto, I think I read something in the car, namely, there is one that is, if there's anything else. Okay. All right. Can we turn off the cell phones unless you are on duty and on call, and you need them to be on vibrate? Okay? I'd actually prefer if the people in the back would come forward unless we're expecting other people. Okay? It actually makes it easier. I don't have to talk so loudly. What I'd like you to do for me, please, is write your phone number and your name in my diary for me, and we will take a general register every time we meet. Yes, Ms. Raquel, I think you want me to do that, right? Okay. Let me. Okay. Here we are. Please write clearly for me and put your phone number. My phone number is on, thank you, my introductory page, and I expect you to text message me, or my email address is also there. I expect you to email me as well if there are any problems. I maintain this phone for you. You may find on the college's UCCI's website another phone number for me, the office phone number. But the truth is, we're seldom in the office. We're all over the place. So I've got it fixed by our wonderful friends in the IT department so that the office phone calls come through to this. So if there's any problem, you call me. or you text me, or you email me, I will be in touch with you within 24 hours of your getting in touch with me. Here is this one, 9255137. Okay? And the email address is this. Okay. Fair enough. And there's another one at Yahoo, but I don't use that so often, so I don't quite remember it. All right. Now today we want to set up a system from which we move. Namely, we wish to develop what some people might call a theory of communication or a philosophy of communication. By the way, if I'm ever talking too fast, please slow me down. Because at some stages when I'm talking too fast as well, my accent tends to take over. So if I'm ever doing that, raise hands, slow me down. First and foremost, we also need to recognize there's no such thing as a foolish question. Yes? So if there's anything at all that I am saying or arguing about that you do not understand, you raise your hand. If I'm saying something that you do not agree with, or if, you want more information on that, etc., you raise your hand. In other words, I don't expect you to accept everything I say just because I've said it. Yes? In other words, you wish to challenge ideas as well. Now, most working students like yourselves have a tendency to believe that they're at a hopeless disadvantage. They're in this race with time, and time is going to win. Hands down. Yes? Thanks, Roberto. Okay. Thank you. It's in here somewhere. I'll just keep the box then. Thanks a lot. Okay? We manage. Yeah. I know it's in here somewhere. Okay, so the whole business of time, folks. Many of us feel that, oh my gosh, we feel that we're in a race with time and time is going to win. Yeah? That there's no way we can win this race with time. Yes. No, the problem is this is not true. We're all in a race with time because, of course, we are not promised tomorrow, as the saying goes. Yes? But, on the other hand, do the working people often feel that they are at a severe disadvantage because sometimes we're competing with teenagers who seem to have nothing to do with their time. Yes? And we are working to earn a living, we're working to support families, etc. This is true. But on the other hand, do the working students, I call them my working people, yes? Do the mature students have advantages that they underestimate? Yes. And one of these basic advantages is, of course, what? It is this concept that when we're working, we're not learning. This is not true. When we're working, we're always learning. Yes? Excuse me a minute. Roberto, I just have this funny feeling that there is one thing that I left in the office for you, but in actual fact, we may not need it. We may not need it today. Okay. Can we continue? Yes? It's done? It's
Continue, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Now, the book will come when I know if we're... Don't take it, Roberto. No. It just puts on the book. Thanks a lot. Okay, people at the back, can you hear me and see me?
Yes.
Now, one of the basics of good listening is, of course, making eye contact. Look at the person who is talking to you and to whom you are speaking, always. Okay, now one of the, it's actually a false assumption. It's a fallacy, isn't it? the fallacies that a lot of working students have and cherish is, of course, this idea that I have to work, I'm not learning anything on the job, I do the same thing over and over and over every day like clockwork, yes? But what you as samples of working students forget is that you're learning some precious survival skills on the job. And one of the first of these is time management. Time management. That you have less time available to you than the teenagers do. Worse yet, some of you go home to young children. Good grief. Yes. But what you're not understanding is that the lifestyle you are living gives you opportunities to learn time management skills that no textbook can teach you. This is a fact. You're also learning what the Americans call multitasking. Yes? And a very, very important skill that you are not only learning but you're polishing up because you have learned it so far or you would not be in the jobs you are in is, of course, the very important skill which is self-discipline. Self-discipline. Unlike the teenagers who are on scholarships or whose parents are paying for them, you don't need people to police you. You police yourselves because you have goals that you need to achieve, yes? And you understand that you need a certain level of self-discipline and self-control to achieve these goals, yes? Now, self-discipline, time management, and multitasking actually are worth their weight in gold, so to speak. Yes? Why do I say this? Because, of course, nobody can teach us these. We have to teach ourselves these. Isn't that the truth? It is. Okay. So, in other words then, folks, let's take a deep breath and take a positive approach. We will meet for 2 hours a week, but as I said earlier on, you can get in touch with me, 925-5137 or panderson@ucci.edu.ky. Fine. I'm going to just keep this on in case he finds anything else in the car for us. First and foremost, then, we're in the beginning of a new year. We're in the beginning of a new course. We're at the start of a new semester. Have we all set ourselves some goals for this time? Do we have some place, a planner, a diary, etc., where we put down on paper, or we put them down in our magic phones, or our iPads, or all these wonderful things that we have? Write it down. Seeing things in black and white can give them a whole different reality. What do I wish to achieve, not just this year, but maybe this term? In other words, sometimes we have to take things in time in smaller sections. Not 12 months, but maybe 3 months, yes? Or 4 months. They will be more manageable, yes? Okay. If you haven't done that, I'd like you now to put down in a notebook that you must keep, in which you put all your reminders to yourselves, etc., if you don't have a diary. What do you wish to achieve in the next 3 or 4 months? And what do you want from this course? I'm going to keep quiet for a few minutes. I'm sure you have these things at the back of your minds, but please put it down on paper. Seeing things in black and white can give them a whole new reality. As you know from your profession, I am sure. Yeah? Okay. I'll keep quiet for a moment. In other words, these are reminders to ourselves. What is it we want to get done? Yeah, you pull it for them. Thank you. And that's why I'm doing it on the blog. You have the problem of work. That sometimes you have to miss classes. Yes? And when there's some really important things that I want us to nail, I'll record them on the blog. Okay? And put them on. Roberto will put them on the blog. He knows how to do it. Okay. What exactly do we want to achieve, and why are we in this room at this time? Okay. Thank you. And what I'd also like you to do, thank you, is get a folder in which we put everything safely, everything that I give you. There was a clipboard. Okay, we'll use that instead. Yes? No, you don't have to share. Sorry?
We need to flip charters right now.
Yeah, would somebody, gentlemen, will you help Miss Raquel with the picture? About our children. Oh, well, here we are. We don't have to change a thing. It's right here. Thank you. Yeah. Do we have a feeling at the back of our minds, thank you, sir, thanks, Ms. Raquel, that if we're not doing something directly for the job or for our children, we're wasting time? Or we're stealing time? Yes or no? We feel guilty. Yes. How many of us in this room have children? Whether they're here or somewhere else?
150 of them.
Oh, you have 150, okay. I have about 95 every semester. And then there are you as well to add. Okay? Is it true that many parents have this guilt complex? If they're not doing something that's of direct, visible benefit to their children, they feel, oh my gosh, I'm being selfish or I'm robbing them of time. This is not true. Is it true that when we put ourselves in a better position in terms of training and education, we're helping ourselves, of course. But are we also helping our loved ones? Yes or no? Yes. Remember, life is full of surprises, you know. And many of them are not pleasant. Yes? So in actual fact then, when we put ourselves in a better position, a more competent position, a more efficient position, yes, as professionals and as workers, do we prepare ourselves for some of the unpleasant surprises of life? We do. And as such then, do we put ourselves in a position where we can give more to our loved ones, do more for them, and definitely not be a burden to them? Have you thought of it that way? Some of you are thinking, I should be going home by 5:30, I shouldn't be in this room, I should be going home to cook supper, I should be going home to help children with homework, I should be going home to answer emails or phone calls from children who are elsewhere, and so on, don't you? Do we have all kinds of guilt feelings? The house is a mess. Dishes are in the sink. I'll tell you a secret, my friends. It is quite possible to do homework with dishes in the sink. It is quite possible to eat from paper plates and plastic forks. Yes! Excuse me. Okay, continue with the goal setting, please. I'll keep quiet. Excuse me. All of these terrible things are possible. Yes. Okay. And here we are. This is going to be our first review. We may not be ready to understand, but I did 35 copies of everything, so we should have it. Yes, it just started. We may not be ready for them this time, but please keep it up, okay? All right. So we've done a bit of goal setting, and I'd like each of you to please introduce yourselves to the class and to me. Maybe you've met each other before, but I'd like you to introduce yourselves to me. Okay, the last one is a review, yes, which we may not be ready, thank you, sir, which we may not be ready for at the end of this class, but, okay, thank you. Are we ready again? Yeah? Okay. Ready? First, who is going to talk to us? Who is going to introduce yourself and tell us at least one of your goals for the next 4 months? Okay. Oh, wonderful. Okay. Hero.
My name is Roberto. I'm a line officer of cosmetology, and in 4 months' time, I would like to get promoted as supervisor.
Why?
Because I deserve it.
What makes you deserve it?
By completing my assignments, all that has been assigned to me.
Okay. Now, as we're looking at communication skills and styles, are we going to find ourselves in the deep end of the swimming pool called management?
Yes.
Yes. And some people call it leadership. And one interesting, management psychology, if you want to call it that, is not my field. But I found myself dropped in the deep end of the management psychology swimming pool when a former boss simply put down my name to teach this group of beautiful people called bankers a course in management psychology with very little warning. You can imagine the state of my blood pressure when I saw that. Yes? And a very kind man from Scotland who was teaching at the college at the time directed my reading. And I found that, interestingly enough, though my major had actually been writing and literature, literature is called literature the second cousin to psychology, and called psychology the second cousin to management. So it wasn't as complex a move as I feared. Now, of course, if you're going to be in management, you're going to be in leadership. And one of the basic rules of leadership is, as I read in this lovely book that a friend of mine gave me for Christmas, that good leaders are people who actually like people. That to be a good leader, you actually have to like people. Sometimes it's hard to like people.
Question, though, are all managers leaders?
No, and all managers are not leaders. And some leaders are not even good managers.
And not all managers like people.
And not all, but exactly. But to be a good leader, this book on leadership says to be a good leader, you actually have to like people and care about them. And it's not easy to like people all the time. Because let's face it, human nature is not always a nice thing. As you have learned, if you didn't know it before, from your area of work. Okay, so one of the things you want is a promotion because you feel you deserve it. Uh-huh. My question is, do we get everything in life that we deserve? Trust me, the answer is no. I've been around long enough to tell you that for a fact. Plenty gray hair in here has taught me that. And the interesting thing is that sometimes when we get what we deserve, we don't want it anymore. And sometimes when we get what we want, we don't want it anymore. Yes? It's frightening. And then, of course, there's this other aspect, which is be careful what you want. You may get it, or it may get you. As the Americans put it may get you. Okay, so there's that thought. Other people had their hands up. Yeah, at the back, yes. Yes, what, for now, please, so we can see you. What's the name?
I'm Dave Williams. I'm a line officer at HMP.
Dave?
Dave, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I consider myself an intelligent and experienced individual who operates as a professional.
You have experience with what?
Secondly,
Repeat for me, please.
I consider myself an experienced individual.
Yeah.
I want to be able to report any situation chronologically, whether written or verbally, thus improving my communication skills.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm in this class.
Thank you. So we wish to improve the communication skills, and you stressed accuracy. Because, of course, accuracy is crucial in your line of work. Yes. Because the more you stay in this line of work, is the more you understand that letters, emails, memos, and reports are all legal documents. They all can be used as legal documents. It's a frightening thought. So before we put pen to paper or finger to keyboard, we must be very, very careful. Excuse me. Okay, anybody else who had our hands up?
Roberto, I'm a supervisor at Fairbanks. What I hope to achieve in this class is to improve on my writing skills.
Uh-huh. Thank you. Definitely. Anything else? Yes, ma'am?
My name is Roberto, and I'm a supervisor at Fairbanks Prison. And at the end of this class, I hope that I'll be able to produce an accurate a report of anything on my job. And I also do writing as my hobby, so I'm hoping it will help me in that area as well.
You love writing?
I have published a book.
Yes? What's the name of it?
It's a book about Cayman in the olden, back in the olden days.
Is it in the supermarket?
Not right now, no.
Foster's, it used to be?
It used to be at Hobbies and books and books and books and
Uh-huh.
books by data, of course, it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just have some copies at home.
What? Okay, you want to sit down? Let me ask you a question. Some people say that writing is a form of catharsis. It's a form of therapy.
Yeah.
The French psychology school used to call psychological counseling the talk therapy. Yes? And you've heard the word catharsis. It comes from Greek philosophy. Yes? Was it Aristotle? Yes. Who talks about this idea that great writing, great literature, great art gives us the opportunity to identify with others and to share their experience at second hand. And I think it was Aristotle as well who said that we are able, when we say watch drama on stage, and this would apply to good movies today, wouldn't it? To get rid of some of our more painful and stressful emotions, which are fear and pity. And as a result, we are less burdened by our deepest emotions. We are cleansed of them. It's a catharsis. We're purged of them. Why did you know? I have spent some time working on Mr. Roy Bodden's works about the old Cayman, the stories, and learned a lot about Cayman from them, as well as listening to my students. Why were you drawn to that particular topic, the past?
When my daughter was about 6 years old, she was asked to write a report in school about something that actually happened. So at first she said she was going to write about the Queen of the Cayman.
Yeah.
And then she said she didn't want to do that. And then I sat down and told her a story about my grandfather's donkey.
Yeah.
And her teacher was very impressed with me, and she thought that I should turn it over to the National Trust.
Yes.
And after that's what brought me
Yeah.
going there.
Okay. Are we all, in a sense, products of our past?
Of course.
Yes. Is there a lot that we can learn from our past and other people's past? Many of you talking with the prisoners who are in your care, if you have that contact, find yourselves listening to their past. And I'm sure some of these stories make you cry. Yes? Or make you angry. Do we learn a lot from our past, but also other people's past?
Yes.
Absolutely. In other words, when we speak of the power of the past, we're not exaggerating. Are you just joining, sir?
Yes, I am.
Would you come forward and would you help yourself to these handouts? Okay. Anybody else? Is there anybody else here who can identify with this issue called the power of the past? Yes? Raquel?
Sure.
Miss Raquel? Yeah.
Want an example?
Yes.
Well, I mean, every day you learn something new and you build on what was happened the day before. So
Yes.
try not to repeat mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Try to repeat the good things.
The present is a product of the past. And the present leads into the future. Are we in an endless cyclical relationship with the past, the present, and the future?
Yes.
Yes or no? Of course. And I'm sure that you read books that capture that. One of the reasons why that teacher was so impressed was, of course, you had nailed down part of that relationship. How the past has fed into the present. Yes. And we've seen movies about this relationship, haven't we? The past, the present, the future, the past, the present, the future. It goes on endlessly. How has the power of the past come across to you, my friend, would you? Yeah. Through your job, anybody? People are in prison because of things they did in the past.
Learn mistakes.
Sorry?
Learn mistakes.
Or we should.
Yeah.
in other words, is the prison part of the effort for people to get the opportunity to learn from their mistakes?
Yes.
Yes. Can you, as workers working with these people, learn from their mistakes? Yes. Okay. Anything else about the power of the past that anybody wants to add? Does it change, or did it change your whole outlook on life when you, thank you, first found time to listen to the people in the prison and what their past experiences were like? When I was here before, some of you told me, I think it was you, sir, sorry for pointing, that it was very touching, it kind of hit you here, to know that many of the young men in prison had actually never had a father that they knew in their lives, or a caring father figure in their lives, whether a biological father or not, because we know that being a biological parent, in quotation marks, is not what parenthood is all about. Yeah? In other words, as Mr. Obama says, anybody can bring a baby into the world, or almost everybody, but that's not what makes you a father. Yeah? Okay. And I was told that, some of you guys told me that what was really shocking was how many of these young men had never had a useful conversation with a man who could have been a positive father figure and positive influence in their lives. You have seen that, yes, sir?
Yeah, I can even go further to state that I've had conversation with people who cannot name one person who has never been to prison that they know. Yeah.
Who has never been to prison. These are prisoners.
Prisoners, yeah.
Okay.
They don't know anyone that has never been to prison.
So they're all repeating the same cycle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anybody else who wants to share the goals with us? Yeah?
My name is Roberto. I've been working in the prison for 13 years. I'm in my 13th year. At the end of this course, I would like to produce the perfect reports.
Okay.
And maybe if I achieve that, I can build on this and get something else to add on to my portfolio.
Uh-huh. So you were sent here by the HR officer, Miss Raquel? Yeah. Sorry?
She forced us all to come.
Well, at the end of it, I hope you won't feel you were forced. Okay, I hope you'll feel that she did you a favor. Anybody else with their hands up? Yeah? Anybody else with their hands up?
So we
Sorry.
all have to do it? Or is it
Anybody who
possible?
wants to? Yeah?
Okay, I don't have to introduce myself, I think. My goal is to get back into the academic rhythm because I plan to enroll in a master's program.
May I ask you why you wanted this promotion? And I warned you, be careful what you want, you may get it. Could I ask you why as well?
Why I want to enroll in a master's program? I think,
This is in HR.
yes. I don't think that it's required for my effectiveness, but it is required for my development professionally.
Uh-huh. Do you think that, in fact, the master's program experience could actually make you more effective in non-academic ways?
Yeah.
In other words, in ways that are not strictly intellectual,
It could.
because you can get more insights from it, the experience, yes. Is it true that just the experience of the discipline of being in a certain place at a certain time, every week, sitting down to do the homework or the reading, whether it's required or not required reading, constantly, that in actual fact is a kind of discipline that helps us Much the way, you know, these ice skaters do X amount of training every day. Yes? I was watching the ice skating on TV yesterday. You know, these people who dance and on ice and do all these pirouettes and jumps and all these things that you think, oh my God, they're going to break their neck or their foot now. And this girl said, well, when she was practicing, she visualized herself taking weekends in warm places in between. Yes? In other words, the discipline of the practice, she balanced it off with something pleasant. But do we come to realize, the older we get as well, that having a routine and practice can actually provide a kind of stability and discipline for us? Is there a lot of confidence to be gained from knowing that there are things we can actually do well? And how do we learn to do them well? What was it Tiger Woods said? Practice, practice, practice. Exactly. Now, the interesting thing about goal setting, of course, is you've heard this expression. It's not just the goal, the destination that counts. What counts is the journey. Is this just another thing that Oprah Winfrey might have said, having tea with somebody? Does it sound like something that Oprah could have just put out while she was on some pink cloud of philosophy, having tea somewhere? Or did Oprah, as usual, have a point? I think she usually has a point, you know. What is it? That getting there is our goal. But what we have to do to get there, whatever there is or wherever there is the thing that makes the difference. In other words, all the processes we go through to achieve our perceived goal. It's those processes, the journey, that actually can make the big difference in our lives. Yes? This is true. And sometimes we underestimate the importance of all those little things, those little stages along the way. Would anybody else like to tell us about your goals and introduce yourselves?
My name is Stephen Ackley. I'm a manager. And I'm here because I want to improve my writing skills, especially here before writing. And of course,
But you're talking to the people in the back, so you've got to turn around and look at them too.
yeah, I don't know if it's
Yeah, but you're talking to them.
so eye contact.
Eye contact. Yeah.
I'm saying that my goal is, my reason for being here is because I want to improve my writing skills, especially here before writing. And of course, the words being certified in that area. I'm also looking to hopefully achieve some more credits towards my associate in Irish in public administration that I'm currently pursuing. And also, in the next 4 months, all the objectives that is set to be completed within that time, I'm hoping to have that completed within the next 4 months.
Okay. Anybody else? Some of us have been awfully quiet. Ladies at the back, you've been awfully quiet. And we don't check our emails and text messages, do we? Sorry?
I said something you don't get time to check it.
I know. Sometimes, of course, you have to keep them on if you're on call somehow. And what you do is just let me know, okay? And keep them at vibrate, okay? Generally speaking, we're surrounded by so-called communication, aren't we? The text messages, the phone calls, the emails, and everybody wants a reaction and a response immediately. Isn't that the truth? There is no turnaround time given. Everybody wants what they want immediately. Is this part of the stress of modern life that technology has created? Technology has benefited us in so many ways, but does it put immense pressure on us in other ways? Now, those of us who do not have internet facilities must get that, must invest in them. Those of us who do not have these wonderful phones of some kind that can do the emails as well, yes, should get one, invest in one. Trust me, I didn't want one. I wanted just an ordinary phone, and I didn't want that either. A girlfriend bought me my first phone and said to me, well, they were doing them buy one, get one free. I got you one. Yes. I don't know if that was true. Maybe she was just telling me that to make me feel bad, not so bad. Because I was saying, you can't spend all this money. Okay. But I could do an ad for BlackBerry, actually. And it has its proven worth its weight in gold and worth every penny on the thing, on the month-end bill. Why is this? Because you can, your peers can get in touch with you fast. If there's an emergency, fast response. Can you also keep in touch with all kinds of information? They have dictionaries, they have encyclopedia, they have news, they have Google. These wonderful people call themselves Google, who replace all this reading for us. Yes. In other words, it's actually worth the money. You may think it's a bit of an expense, but it actually isn't. Okay. That's by the way. So some of us have told us what our goals are, and I was going to draw this for us, but here it is again. Where are we exactly in our lives? Remember, we don't just bring ourselves to this classroom in a bubble. Is the classroom experience that we're in part of our lives? Of course it is. And the other parts of our lives, will they affect what happens here? Yes or no? Of course. So in actual fact then, if we look at this, call it the pyramid, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You'll make it before, I'm sure, in various courses. Maslow was a psychologist whose theory was that our lives can be conceptualized in terms of a pyramid. Yes? And at the bottom of the pyramid would be the widest category. Yes? And we are looking at our lives in terms of needs. Maslow's theory was that we're driven by needs and drives. Yes? The truth is, for instance, that he definitely had a point. Food, water, sleep, the physical needs, yes, are very important ones, aren't they? And his theory was that we have to actually satisfy the physical needs, what some textbooks call the lower level needs. I am not sure they are lower level because everything else is built on them, if you know what I mean. They're foundational needs. Thank you, exactly. And we have to satisfy these before we can move up to a higher level. Okay, but we're going to argue about that later again. Generally speaking, safety is a big need. In fact, for many people, the needs for physical safety are more important, those needs, than those. Let's face it, children in war-torn countries, people, not just children, but consider children as the most vulnerable, easy victims, yes? The children, for instance, in a place like Syria, where this man Assad is just constantly bombing his own people. Anybody who didn't support him, his father had a reputation for having killed 250,000 Syrian people. At least, estimated. Yeah. This man drops bombs, the bombs that have the germs and the chemicals in them that make people just suffocate and die right away. Yes? Not just fire bombs. Now, children in such a situation cannot learn well. They're traumatized. Think of the children in some of the African countries we read about, where these children are made into child soldiers. And they're told that their parents will be killed, their sisters and brothers will be killed if they do not cooperate. Do such children have any sense of safety? And then we turn around and say they must go to school. Are we crazy? You understand what I'm saying? They can't concentrate, excuse me. In other words, we have a real need for physical safety. Okay, then going up the ladder some more, we have a big need for love and belonging. And of course, the Greeks had a word for it. They always did. Greek culture was very philosophically oriented, but of course they did a lot of violence too and a lot of fighting too. Yes? They had different variations of definitions of love. But we all need to love and to feel we belong to something bigger than ourselves. How many of you are born and bred Caymanians? Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay, we find out that we were born here, we grew up here. How many of us were born here and grew up here? Raise hands. Mm-hmm. You want to feel that this is your home and that you belong here. What about the people who were not born here, like myself, but may have spent several years here, and we want to feel we're part of Cayman society as well? Whether we're on a work permit, whether we have residency, whether we're applying for Cayman status, whatever it is, do we have a big need to feel that we belong in the environment we're in? Mm-hmm. Why is it? Is it just a human need? That we all want to feel we belong, we're part of something bigger than ourselves? Yes or no? Yes. And the truth is that we don't know what will happen tomorrow. Yes? But as long as we are here in Cayman, do we have an obligation to act as if we belong? And when we act as if we belong, what do? We live of our best. Isn't that the truth? How does Mr. Button put it in the introduction to his book, The Cayman Islands in Transition, which we all should read truly? Anybody else cold in here?
No, you cold?
No? Yes, my beautiful students will not complain. They won't complain until they are hot or they're cold. They're just... can we make it a teeny weeny bit warmer? I'll put on my jacket, okay? Yes. My students will not complain. Yes. Okay. What is it? Sorry?
Excuse me. You'll be sending this in the blog?
Everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You have to go to work?
No, another class.
Another class. Okay. I hope you'll be here for the full time next time. Now, as you're leaving, we have a review sheet, which I'm sure we won't be ready for next time. Yes? It's about theories of communication again. It's called the review of the readings. You can see what you can do with it. Okay? Yeah, let's continue. Generally speaking, do we know where life is going to lead us? No. No. Sorry? Yeah, but my point is, okay, we're talking about Mr. Budden's book, The Cayman Islands. Thank you, sir, in transition. He says that, one of the things he says that's interesting, he says that the people he calls the settled Caymanians should stop patronizing the expatriates. And the expatriates should treat Cayman as their own. Now, when this car is your own, you treat it better than the rent-a-car. Yes or no?
And the prison car.
No, true.
Uh-huh. No.
I
Okay.
beg to differ with that.
So, if you treat something as your own, no, some responsible people like you will treat the rent-a-car just as well, but some people don't.
Well, it might not be a rent-a-car, maybe a friend's car. If it's a friend's car, you treat it better than your own.
Any care is true.
Or worse.
If I have a friend's car, take better care of it than my own.
Yes, but some people treat it worse.
So
Yes.
it-
I'm sure we've had the things that we've lent to friends or loaned to friends, and they come back, woo, in a bad way, and you say, how could I have been so stupid? But if something is your own, and you're treating it as your own, does it mean you're going to be taking more care with it and of it? And it's an interesting point then because, of course, does it lead us to the issue of a work ethic? The American system was built on the idea that what? Hard work was a part of a life well lived. That hard work is a part of a life well lived. One of the basic international human rights is the right to work. Yes? And we notice that some of the famous super wealthy people of the United States, for instance, that we've been exposed to, continue working after they've made the millions and millions and millions and millions. Oprah Winfrey, one of the highest earning women ever in America, continues working. Why? She loves what she does. She has a work ethic. Half of the money she earns, she gives away. Exactly. What does Ted Turner, who owns CNN and the Turner, all the Turner production agencies, say? He has found that the more he gives is the more he gets back. He continues working. Right now he's working on what? Conservation of, is it the rhinoceros or the buffaloes, the American buffaloes. In other words, you find that a lot of very creative people understand that work is not just about making money. Yes? As my former boss in the Bahamas used to say, my former president, may she rest in peace, she used to say what? The work gives you something to fill in the time with. Yes? Her children had grown up. Yes? And her husband had died. And she said, well, the work gives me something to do with the time. May she rest in peace. Was she quite right? Yes. We've noticed that many very caring people, in other words, obviously do not just work for money. Now, the money is important. I know it pays the bills. I know we need it. I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I have worked hard for every penny I've had. Yes? But do we work for more than money? Yes. And we should. Why? Because if all we're doing is the only reason we're working for is money, we will always be dissatisfied because inflation will always be one step ahead of us. Yes? So this whole concept of a work ethic then takes us into, links these two. Love and belonging and self-esteem and respect. Doing a job that is what my father used to call honest sweat. It may not make us sweat physically, it may make us sweat psychologically and mentally, yes? May even give you a pain in your chest. But what they call honest sweat and understanding the importance of work is what links these two. Then at the top here comes self-actualization, finding out why we are here on this planet. Is life more than just a journey from the cradle to the grave? In other words, what are our talents? Are there things we do, like writing for you, that actually give us a sense that there's more to life than just survival. Now, many times we don't reach this level. And of course, there's this interesting argument that says that when we are involved with things that give us a sense of self-actualization, often creativity, yes, a sense of purpose, we can actually forget about these. In other words, you notice that people who are great performers, great creative people, what do? They they'll be in the studio practicing for 5 hours at a time, and they don't eat, they don't sleep, etc. for longer. Okay, so if we're looking at our lives then and asking, why are we in this room? Why are we doing this course? Then of course, part of the process is the search for self-actualization. We want to do something better with the time we have available to us. There comes an age, as we all know, and if you haven't met it yet, like Yolanda, you will meet that age, when you realize you have more time behind you than you may have ahead of you. Exactly. Yolanda and you, a few of you very young-looking people in this room, yes, you reach a stage where the people you were at school with start dying. And it's not just a fluke where somebody drops dead with an aneurysm. They're dying of age-related diseases. And you suddenly realize that you have more time behind you than you may have in front of you.
They're going downhill.
Well, don't put it that way. In which event, then, our search for meaning in life and self-actualization becomes more urgent. Which is, of course, why older students make better students, generally speaking. Because the process that we're involved in, the journey, has more meaning for us because we realize we have less time ahead of us. Sorry? It was? It was? Oh, well, put it that way. Now, of course, we've talked about management. Many of you have actually said you are managers. Now, if you're a good manager, you want to be a good leader. All leaders are not good managers, and all managers are not leadership material. But is it true that there is one aspect that ties the concept of management to the concept of communication? And it is, of course, ethics. Are there basic ethical systems that underpin actually management and communication? Yes, there are. Yes. And can we look at the one that says ethics for excellence in the workplace, the tapestry of ethical systems? Yes? Now we hear a lot about ethics on the radio and TV, and we also hear constantly about breakdowns of ethics in the workplace and what they cost the economy. How many of us remember hearing about this terrible thing called Enron? Oh, yes. It is said that that is one of the worst, the absolute worst stock market and company crashes ever to hit the U.S. economy. And that the American government will continue paying back shareholders probably forever. One of the managers, the bad managers of Enron, actually committed suicide. I think 1 or 2 of them are in prison. Some are still fighting cases. Yes? While the Enron stocks were going down, the managers of Enron were busy selling their stocks and encouraging workers to invest their retirement money in these stocks, which actually had no value. They had inflated them. There's a movie right now called The Wolf of Wall Street coming up. Is it around yet? I know it's in, that video shop opposite the Funky Town. Yeah, it's in there.
No, sir.
It's,
Dr. Grace,
sorry?
you engage in black market movements?
That's not black market.
Yes, it's not copyrighted.
No.
Yes, it's not legal.
I think they're running a legal business.
Yeah, license.
I'm sure they have a license. Let's not go any further, okay? But The Wolf of Wall Street is coming up. And some of you have watched things called Criminal Minds on TV. You watched this other one called Crimes of the Century, is it? There's one, is it on CNN or somewhere, where they talk about these people who rip off the government and the economy. It's not Crimes of the Century, but it's something else like that. Now, we're aware of the fact that societies can create as many rules and regulations as you want to create. Yes? People will always find a way around them. Isn't that the truth? Yes.
That's why we got prisons.
Yeah, but the problem is the people come out of prison and do it again. In other words, the question of recidivism, going back, the repeat offenders, is something that bothers all of you in your line of work.
And something we around it also legal.
Sorry?
Something we around it illegal.
Something we do what?
Something we around it illegal also.
Around the laws are absolutely legal. And if only these people would use that creativity and that intelligence that they use to find legal ways around the laws to actually do something positive for society and themselves. It's amazing, isn't it? That some of these people who break the laws and break the rules in these creative ways are wonderfully intelligent and creative people, if only they'd use the intelligence and the creativity differently. Okay, so my question then is there an aspect of ethics, rightness and wrongness in communication? Yes, there is. And if you will open up the booklet that says reading and writing skills at the top. Now we're not ready to write yet. We said that we are doing what? We are firming up a philosophy of communication. Yeah? The one that says at the top, the booklet that says reading and writing skills. At the top, in my handwriting. You don't have that one? Oh, there. Oh, there. Okay. Sorry. Can you just pass it on for me? Okay. Now if you open that one up, open it up, please dears, as soon as you get it. Please open it up, yes? Okay. This gives us paragraph structure, yeah? And it talks to us about tone, yeah? Okay. And on the back page of that booklet, we'll have it there. Thank you. On the back page of that book, it says what?
Ethics and communication.
Ethics and communication. Hello? Do we all have that? Now, on a simple level, we all know, and people know that what you write can be a legal document. So be very careful what you write. Yes? But is there more to it than just that. Could this get me in prison, get me in trouble in court or not? Is there more to it than that? If we're developing a really strong approach to and philosophy of communication, is it necessary for us to recognize that communication takes so many different forms? In other words, we don't, Obviously, communication can be verbal or non-verbal. It can be out loud, it can be without words. We know that from real life and other courses, yes? The most important aspect of one of the most important aspects, the verbal means involving words, coming from the Latin word verbum, meaning word, yes? The non-verbal, of course, involves no words. And then there's the important aspect of the voice. The texture of the voice itself is an instrument of communication. Remember people like Luther Vandross, Mariah Carey, what is it these people do with their voices or do with their voices? I can't believe Luther is dead, but anyway. What is it? You know what he used to do with his voice? Woo, 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 up and down. And they are able to go up and down the musical scale with no words. What is it these people realize? That, of course, the voice is, the texture of the voice itself is an instrument of communication. In other words, tone and pitch of voice in our spoken communication can say more than a mouthful. You've heard the expression, it's not what you say, but how you say it that counts. And you've heard people getting in fights and saying, don't talk to me like that. Or don't talk to me in that tone of voice. Or don't use that voice to me. Exactly. Because we're so aware that the voice is such a powerful communicator that it goes beyond words. So of course, on the job, I'm sure all of you have learned to be careful of how you speak to others, especially the more volatile prisoners. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. How many of you have discovered that a more gentle, soft, polite, courteous pitch and tone of voice actually get you better results?
In some cases, yeah.
In some cases.
Yes.
How many have found that this can work even 50% of the time?
Or even more than 50, but you have that maybe 25%.
You have the other people. And we have to recognize the difference. Yes, of course. Because there are some people who take kindness and gentleness for weakness. Okay, or stupidity. You're being polite, it means you're just... Yes. Okay. Sorry? Sorry?
Weakness is something many show here.
We don't show or we do.
Don't.
Because?
Well, for the same reason, they see it as a vulnerability.
In other words, if you're dealing with dangerous people, you cannot appear vulnerable. Yeah, that is true. Okay. On the other hand, have you all had perhaps experiences where you found that people actually needed maybe the more gentle approach in how you talk to them?
Definitely. You have to be able to cater to the needs of everyone in the different situations.
Does this make communication terrifically challenging?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have to know them
Yeah, does it make the out loud communication very complex? The verbal, out loud, oral communication, very complex. Okay. The written communication, in a sense, is much easier than that one. Why? Because the out loud, the verbal communication is mixed with what? What we call body language. Gestures, facial expression, eye contact, what the Americans call the vibes, the vibrations. Yes or no? Yes. And is it true that we're also told that certain parts of our brain pick up on different messages and stimuli? So, in other words, then, sometimes the written communication is easier when we compare it to the not written communication. Okay, if we look at that little booklet then, the one called Reading and Writing Skills, the back page called Ethics and Communication, it says, remember the three, the following are some reminders about the ethics and effectiveness of writing and of generally ethical communication in a professional context. Now, ethics are the morals, the rights and wrongs of the workplace. The Enron example is just one of many. You've heard of this man called Bernie Madoff, Mr. Madoff, who made off with lots of people's money. Yes? He's in prison for 100 odd years, but is it 76?
Also Mr. Adam Stanford.
Yes. Is he out of prison? No. Yeah. Okay. Apparently the Wolf of Wall Street, that man was in prison for less than 10 years. Something like that. Or is that another one that I saw on TV? Okay. Are there some rules and regulations that actually govern and should govern our behavior in the workplace and our communications in the workplace, whether or not they are written down? Now, some professions take it a step further, or I'm sure in your profession you have a book of rules as well, don't you? These are the things you must do and must not do. Doctors, dentists, lawyers, such people, do they get it all written down for them? And they can be put out of the profession if they break these rules? Yes. Are there three ethical systems that actually govern and should govern our behavior in the workplace, but also our professional communications? Yes. Will somebody please read for us? The following are some reminders. Who is going to be our volunteer reader?
I will.
Oh, wonderful. And we'll come to you next. See, what's your name, sir?
Mr. Atherley.
Sorry?
Atherley.
Mr. what?
Atherley.
What's the first name?
Stephen.
Thank you. Stephen, please read for us.
The following are some reminders about ethics and effectiveness of writing and generally ethical communication in a professional context. Number one, remember the three major ethical systems: rule-based, rights-based, and utility-based. These also govern workplace communications.
Now, what are these basically? How many of us have met them in some other course? These we must understand. Now, you'll find them with different titles attached to them, but they're basically the same thing. Yes? You'll find them, okay? Okay, these are the three major families or groups of ethical systems and rules. Yes? The rules-based, look at this first and then I'll keep quiet and we can write them down. The rules-based system says basically something is ethical if it obeys the rules of the particular environment or organization or system that you're functioning in. And it is unethical if it violates those rules. Now, as adults, at the back of your mind, there is a voice that says, but what about the unwritten rules? When I say to you something is ethical if it obeys the rules of the particular environment, didn't some of you think to yourself, what about the unwritten rules? Yes or no? Does every environment have its own written and unwritten rules? Exactly. Then did some of you say, what if the rules are inadequate?
Yeah.
You in your profession understand that the laws are always one step behind technology. Yes or no?
Yes.
We've seen on TV, for instance, this fight that this family has, they want to keep their daughter on the machines. The hospital says she's legally dead. Is this an example of how technology has made it possible for her to keep breathing? But she's not breathing for herself. Is she dead or alive?
Yeah, she's dead.
But the parents want to keep her on the machine. Are we looking at an example, for instance, of how the law may be one step behind the technology?
Absolutely.
The abortion debate is another example. We won't go into that one. In other words, when is the baby legally dead or not? Yes, there's this other argument about this woman who's been in a coma. She wanted not to be kept on machines. Her husband doesn't want her kept on machines, but she's pregnant, and is it Arizona, somewhere in the south, they say she must be kept alive because there's a baby inside her.
20 weeks pregnant.
20 weeks pregnant. Okay, so we can see that the rules-based system is limited. Then the rights-based system is less rigid. This is far more authoritarian. Authoritarian means based on authority and power and perceived and visible power. My way or no way is the authoritarian philosophy of that. Yes or no? Yes. This is, of course, more limited, more rigid. The rights-based system is much more democratic. The rights-based system says what? Good evening. The rights-based system says something is ethical if it respects the human rights of all parties concerned. And it is unethical if it violates those rights. You are in this class?
Yes.
Or you're just visiting?
No, I'm supposed to be a part of the class, but due to this statement to this hour.
Okay, well, we put these things on the big sessions on the blog, and the blog address is up here. After class, you can contact it down. I've noticed this before, that sometimes we just can't get here. Okay, no problem. We're on number 2. Then the rights-based ethical system says something is ethical if it respects the rights of all parties involved. And of course, does it often use reference to the American Constitution, which is seen as one of the most well-written versions of a human rights philosophy in the English language. Okay. And in other words, that there are some inalienable rights that cannot be taken away from human beings by virtue of the fact that we are human beings. Yes? And something therefore is ethical if it respects those rights. It's unethical if it violates those rights. But of course, the rights-based system demands maturity and honesty. Why? Because we have to understand that there is a point at which my rights end and yours begin. Isn't that the truth? Yes. Exactly. I may have a right to play this very depressing country and western music on a Sunday morning, but the person living next door doesn't have a need to hear it. if you get my point. Okay. So then the rights-based system demands honesty and charity. Yes? And of course a certain level of maturity. The most freewheeling of the lot is the utility-based system, which says something is ethical if it is of utility, usefulness to the majority of the people involved. And it is unethical if it is of least usefulness to the minimum number of those involved. Now, it might have been useful to many people in the South African government to copy the patents and recipes for the AIDS medication. Yes? Because they had such a terrible epidemic of AIDS and they didn't have the money to buy the drugs. But the drug companies said, but we are the ones who invested all this money in the research. Yes? What you are doing is unethical. And in fact, we're going to take you to international court. Yes? Of course, it was of utility to the vast majority of the people involved to have these drugs or the replicas of these drugs available cheap. But for the people who had invested the money in the creation of the drugs, were they being cheated? Yeah. The government said, but these international drug corporations are holding us to ransom. They're putting profits above human life. The drug companies said, but we have invested all this money in this stuff, in the research. Besides, if you do not apply the drugs correctly, they will actually make situations worse, and so on. So generally speaking then, does each of the ethical systems have its own weakness? It would appear so. So we have to flexibly interface them with each other. Yes or no? And in many senses, then, the best way to look at the ethical systems in regard to our actions and our communications is to do what? Create a tapestry. Look at this one, please, the one called Ethics for Excellence in the Workplace, the tapestry. In other words, are there positive behaviors that we call virtues? Yes, it's the Ethics for Excellence in the Workplace, ethical systems, virtues, management, or leadership styles. Yes or no? Do we have that in front of us? Yes. Now, in actual fact, communication does not exist in a vacuum. Whether it is written or oral, whether it is verbal or non-verbal, the communication that we do does not exist in a vacuum. And is it related, of course, to actions? And our grandmothers used to tell us, actions speak louder than words. Or you've heard the other expression, what is it? The one that says, what you are speaks so loudly, I can't hear a word you are saying. What you are, what you do, speaks so loudly, I can't hear a word that you're saying. Make sense? Yeah. So, do we then have to look at our communication in terms of the ethical systems, but the virtues, the good habits, the good behaviors, yes, that are connected to what we do? And are those behaviors going to exist also within a work context that we call leadership or management? Yes or no? This brings us back to you, E-Rose. Yeah? Okay. Because, of course, is there more to management than meets the eye? Have a look then. The ethical system called the rules-based system demands trust, obedience, faith. Faith in what? The laws, the rules. Do we have to actually believe that rules make sense for us to willingly obey them? Are there some rules that seem so ridiculous that we don't want to obey them until we find out the history of why that rule was made? Interesting, yes? Mm-hmm. Then, of course, respect for laws. What the Greeks called prudence, justice, temperance. Self-control is temperance, yes? And loyalty. But, of course, the rules-based system is hooked up with a management style that is very alienating to the majority of mature people. It's the authoritarian style. The style that says, my way or the highway. Yes. Now, interestingly, before we throw that one out the window, that management style is, as you have noticed in your line of work, necessary when you are dealing with certain kinds of dangerous or potentially dangerous situations and persons. My way or no way. Follow the rules. This is it. Yes? The textbooks will tell you, of course, that the authoritarian style is also most useful with what they call immature workers. Immature not relating to age, of course. You know, immature relating to psychological attitude. Exactly. So we understand that the rules-based system also is useful in dangerous situations. Fire departments, police departments, prisons, yes, are these situations where in actual fact the rules-based ethical system comes into play strongly, and we can understand why in practical terms. Yes? The next one is the rights-based system. This one is, of course, the more democratic system. It demands the virtues of charity, justice, honesty, trust, respect, and loyalty. Charity, why? Honesty. Are these the combination that we call maturity? Yes. Why? Because I have to understand that where my rights end, yours begin. And you have to understand that where your rights end, somebody else's rights must begin. And so on. Now, those are related to a mix of styles, often the democratic style, or the laissez-faire style, or even the authoritarian style as needed. The trouble with the can you write in democratic here as well, besides rights-based system? Yes, the management style there is also democratic. Or laissez-faire. The laissez-faire style says live and let live. But you know there are some people in the world who say live and let die. Yes. So in actual fact, the laissez-faire system is more fluid. Laissez-faire system says all my workers are mature professionals and they're supposed to know how to behave. They do not need me to police them or breathe down their necks. Yes? They will do their best if I give them the right encouragement. That's how the laissez-faire system goes. It comes from the French, meaning literally allowed to do. Only the under it. Of course, unscrupulous, dishonest, or immature workers will not do well under a laissez-faire management style. Isn't that the truth? Yes. Okay. But you'll find that the rights-based system works the best with the democratic, the laissez-faire, and some authoritarian styles of leadership as needed. The utility-based system demands charity, respect, justice, etc. And it will use a flexible combination of authority and laissez-faire management styles. But it is very, very important in our communication to understand the style of leadership that governs our workplace. Yes or no? Yes. We may not agree with that style of leadership, but do we have to understand that this is what is in place? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. So we keep that in mind. Going back then to our other booklet, the one that we started reading, yes, it says, remember the three major ethical systems. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've looked at the ethical systems, we've looked at their relationship and useful integration in different management styles. We've also reminded ourselves that it doesn't matter whether we agree or disagree with the management style of our organization. As long as we wish to be in that organization and to survive in it, we must recognize it and respect it. It's actually useful to recognize it. It helps. Okay. Then, of course, the ethical systems don't just govern our behavior, actions. Do the ethical systems also indicate other things? If you look at number 4 and number 5, technology helps us to communicate faster. But are there some things that we must respect when it comes to communicating through technology? Privacy, confidentiality, ownership or intellectual property rights, and accuracy. Somebody spoke about wanting to be able to communicate more accurately. Oh yes. And of course, we look at humanity, being humane in how we communicate, which leads us to number 6, courtesy. Courtesy. Now, some people think that courtesy is old-fashioned or it's a sign of weakness. But in actual fact, even when giving instructions, can we be courteous? Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Number 6 says courtesy and its rules are never out of date, and they are actually part of ethical, effective communication. Avoid angry tones such as sarcasm, cynicism, or the sardonic tone. We'll come upon them in handouts later. Well, in the same booklet, you'll find them here later. And when we come back next time, we're going to look at the principle that says, be careful before you press the send button. Yes. Okay. Then, of course, it says, number 7, consider the purposes, the impacts, and the context of your communication. Why am I doing this? Why am I sending this email, writing this memo, writing this report? What is the context? Get that clearly in our heads before we start pressing any send buttons. Remember, once we've sent it, thanks to technology, it is out there in the universe. Exactly. Exactly. Yes. Is that the truth? Then the biggie, number 8, never, 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 never write or dispatch what you write when you are upset or angry. Very important, folks. Do we have to face the fact, first, that we are upset or angry? Are there some of us who say I'm so mature? I never get angry.
Every hour on hour.
Yes. Are there some of us who say, oh, I never get upset over these trivial things. I'm above all that. Isn't that the truth? We fool ourselves sometimes, don't we? Yeah. Do we have to recognize the power of our own emotions? And what is it that Daniel Goleman, the writer of a life-changing book for me, Working with Emotional Intelligence, tells us? It's in the Ethics for Excellence one, this one here. What is it he tells us? That there are such things as competencies, yes? And I'm trying to get a better copy. This here, yeah? What does he tell us? Personal competencies are important, and he talks about self-awareness. These are all skills we can develop, and he calls it emotional awareness, recognizing one's emotions and their effects. Yes or no? How many of us have really lost our tempers at times, especially with our loved ones? And nobody was more shocked than we were when we threw something at the wall, just missing their head. Yes or no? Yes. Or we open our mouth and all of these, we open our mouths and all of these horrible words came out, and we were the most shocked people because we don't usually use big words. Nice girls don't curse bad words. We've been brought up with the nice girl or the good guy philosophy. Good guys don't curse. They don't get angry.
Good guys don't cause good girls to curse.
And good guys don't. Okay. So under self-awareness comes emotional awareness, accurate self-assessment. Do we need those before we open our mouths and before we put pen to paper? Are they part of a positive philosophy of communication? Know your emotions. Recognize your own triggers. Are there some triggers that cause, you said nice guys don't cause people to curse, but are there some triggers that absolutely get a certain reaction out of us? Is it useful to know them? Admit them? And most definitely, when those triggers are happening, do not press any send buttons and do not write anything that you plan to send. If you write it, flush it down the toilet. Yes, put the save draft button. That's the one you press.
How does the person know how you feel if you don't
Because
press
they don't want to know how you feel. They don't care how you feel.
Maybe.
And they don't care how you feel, so therefore why tell them? Let me ask you something. If they don't care how you feel, why are you wasting time telling them how you feel?
Good
Did
point.
you get my point? It's a horrible thought. But if they cared how you felt, would they have done what they did?
Something to do it and they're not conscious that they have to be.
Then you have to have a quiet talk with them in a quiet moment after your anger has passed. And I right now, 2 weeks after Christmas, still waiting for that calm moment to come before I answer one of my sister's many phone calls. After a particular email that she sent over Christmas. My patience don't answer the phone. And don't answer that email. Well, I answered it and I got Roberto to proofread it. It's very simple answer. But do we have, that's just a personal example. But can of the things that we respond with when we're telling people how we feel actually be completely counterproductive? And will they come back to haunt us later? So, but the point is, if they cared how we felt, would they have done what they did or communicated what they did in the first place? Clearly not. Did you get my point?
Fire don't call fire.
Sorry?
Fire don't call fire.
Fire don't?
Out fire.
They say you should fight fire with fire, but it's a dangerous course of action. No, tit for tat is not a good thing. Not a good thing. Okay, so are these some of the rules then of positive communication? And are we keeping coming back to the same idea that communication is not just about the words we speak or the words we write. They're about the things we do. And do the things we do and the attitudes we have, are these part of what makes us ourselves? But do we have to keep improving those selves in ways that make us look at the long haul, not the short term? In the short term, you may feel better if you open your mouth and tell this person some bad words, you know. Definitely that may feel better. But in the long haul, are we looking for results of more positive communication?
Yes.
We are. And the positive communication will demand the ethics and the virtues and the awareness of the management styles and the management context in which we are operating. Yes, not to mention the management style that we wish to develop. If we want to develop a more democratic management style, because our personal and professional experience have told us that this is the way we get better results, do we then have to develop our polish up, strengthen virtues like charity and patience, and what this man calls self-awareness and self-assessment? Yes or no? Yes. Which is why I said to you at the beginning that we need to maybe keep some kind of diary in which we write notes about things. It is very, very useful to write little letters to ourselves, especially in bad times, in chaotic, volatile times on the job. Before we write any letters or emails, do not send a letter you have written when you are upset. As one lady in another class put it, sleep on it. Sleep on it. Rethink it. Yeah? Okay, so are we seeing communication in a different way then? It's not just about producing a perfect, grammatically perfect memo. It's about understanding all of the emotional and management factors and behavioral factors that go into this thing called communication. Yes or no? Okay. Any questions? I've been doing a lot of talking.
I'm just thinking what it says.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the communicating, you were saying that if the person does not care, what sense does it make to actually
Bother to talk to them.
talk to them? I'm thinking that in some cases it can be good because the person might not have been conscious of the damage that is being done based on the behavior. Yeah?
True.
But by communicating to them, by giving them food for thought, by causing to think, and in future, you may have a different
What is
you may take a different approach.
name again?
After you are Stephen.
have to communicate with them in a patient, courteous manner.
Yes, yeah.
Which you cannot do if you had allowed them to press your buttons and then you reacted showing your anger or your pain or your desire to strangle them.
I agree with that 100% because I've had several experiences where sometimes something happened and I choose to walk away from it and leave it until I cool down because when you're frustrated and you're angry, it tends to come out in your right hand.
Okay.
It comes out in your right hand.
It comes out very much in your writing and our
feelings. It
Yeah.
comes out in your writing and you say exactly, you might say things that you might not want to say or intend to say.
No.
Or the message gets across in a very negative way.
Yeah. So you're actually wasting your time. You got a negative stimulus and you let it work on you and you responded in a negative way. That got you even more negative
So
results.
it defeats the purpose.
So you're actually defeating the purpose of the communication. Thank you. Are you then also allowing the other person to control? Are you giving them the control? Yes or no? Have you given them the control? Sorry, have we all signed this book? If we haven't signed it, please, my friends, let's do it. Okay? Anybody else to ask with something to ask? In other words, before we go our separate ways, hello, Mr. Stephen. You're saying?
I'm just getting ready he's being dropped.
Yeah, you're saying what there?
No, it's,
Anybody with anything else to add?
Don't you think there are people who can respond in those high emotional times very well?
Of course. And is this where experience?
Yeah, my experience.
In other words, look before we leap is a good plan in life, and think before we speak, and think before we communicate, and don't be afraid to back off. In other words, is it useful to know when and how to back off? We do not need to win all the battles in order to win the war.
If you base your war on good ethics, you find that the battles are easily won.
Yes. Are there times when we simply need to back off? He who fights and runs away will live to fight and win another day. Sorry?
The wife said, must be quiet, you run.
My wife what?
And the wife say, must be quiet, you must run.
Okay. Do we have some others then in the booklet from which we got the tapestry? Do we have some reminders for resilience in the workplace? Some I've gotten from books, some I've gotten from my own experience, which we can read. Yes or no? In other words, do I want you to catch up on all the reading? Yes? For next time, because remember I don't steal till a week's time. Yes? And then you have one with a picture in it. Yeah? With the man who is drowning and the one who goes to get his video camera. Does that speak to us about technology and ethics?
Yeah, Facebook.
Yeah. Okay. See if you can write a sentence about that. Okay. So, are some of these readings things we put... Sorry, you did it, I know, but I want you to do it again. Okay? Remember, everybody was with me before. Okay? Fair enough. Do I want you to catch up on the readings for me? Yes? Everything will not be relevant now, obviously. All will go into our folder. How many handouts do we each have? 5. 5. My friend, I think you only have 4. Check. Do we all have 5 different ones? Can I just check? Okay, here we are. How many is it, Russia? We have the tapestry one. Yeah. Ethics for excellence in the workplace. We all have that. Then do we have to all my students?
No, I don't.
Who else does not have to all my
We
students?
have 2 that start with to all my students.
Oh, there's one that says to all my students, procedures, expectations, deadlines, priorities. Do we all have that? You have that, sir? Okay. Then, of course, do we have the one that says, to all my students, reminders for better essay and project presentation. That's really for later. You don't have that one. Okay? Anybody else in need of that one? Remember, we can bring this back, talk back every time. Okay? So is that 4 so far? Yeah. Then did you get one called the review of the reading? Which I told you we're not going to be ready for all of them. But we're going to be ready for some of them. So we're going to work on those. Are some of those common sense? Of course. Are some of those life experience? Yes or no? Here we are, dearest. Did I give everybody? Yes or no? Okay. So next time, we're going to go over these true and false ones, discuss them, argue about them a bit, yeah? Because remember, you don't have to say, I agree with you every time. Okay? And move on some more. Has this solidified some of our perceptions about communication? There's a lot more to it than just spinning out some emails and so on, isn't there? Yes. But we understand why great communicators, it's easy for them to become great managers. And if you want to be a great manager or a great leader, you have to understand the power of communication. Isn't that the truth? Yeah. Okay. Any more questions there? Have we all signed the book?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You all got this log address. My friend, you have to come closer to read it, I think.
Is that YCT or G?
G. G. It's RSS, G for Grace, CT.
It's Grace dot.
It's RSSGCT.com.
So that's what your dot after Grace?
Yes.
Yeah.
Grace dot.
Yes, www.grace.rssgct.com. And then you answer under Dr. Anderson, you enter there, and this is the phone number at which you can get me. Okay? Okay. So we're going to try with the true and false one. Yeah? They are argumentative, some of them. Some of them you have to fill in blank. But we're going to use them as thought provokers for next time. Fair enough? Are we okay? How many people? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19. But there were 20, one left, 20. But you told me 28.
I have more. There's people that are working that wouldn't be here, wouldn't have been here tonight.
But are they coming?
Yes,
When?
next week.
But will they miss again? The problem is the problem we had before.
I presume everybody here will miss at some point, unless they.
But not regularly. I hope not. Okay, folks. Any questions, feedback? I'll hear from you. Yes, sir.
Do you get any credits for this?
But
This course.
I don't know. I mean, it's a 3-credit course.
But up to us to get credit.
No, you get the credits on, once you've successfully completed, you have 3 credits
Yeah.
at the civil service college /CCCN.
Is it a civil service college course? Yes. Am I sent here by the civil service college? Yes. I can check with Miss Diane, but I think it's a credit course, a 3-credit course. Yeah. Okay. Yes, sir.
Is there any way I can find out if I have any credit on the civil service?
If you have any kind of what?
Any credit there already?
Miss Diane, if you come, I'll give you her email address. Here it is. Right now she's doing double time because our registrar at the college at UCCI is kind of struggling. So she has to bill it for him.
Anybody going to town?
I need a ride.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. You don't go where Robin is your
Okay, this is Miss Diane Campbell. Email address. She's in charge of the civil service college, which, as you know, is like a second cousin or a sister to UCCI. And the grades from the civil service college are being transferred. They can be transferred to UCCI if you want to. The value of the civil service college is quite a revolutionary thing. You don't pay for classes, you don't pay for textbooks. I hate to tell you what some of the textbooks.
So you know, when it's laptops,
Sorry?
you also allow you to get a laptop to use while you're there.
Correct. About, I don't know.
I think that they have certain deals with laptops and iPads that apply to also the civil service. So if you're registered for a course, you can get those deals. Like the iPad today is like $200, $300 through UCCI.
Do you facilitate this laptop thing?
I can ask if there are, if I'll send out information. I'll ask and see if the deals are exist for us as well.
You could get, I think it was with the Royal Bank, they had a deal. But you have to provide a lot of information as to your financial situation. And some students objected. They felt it was too much in private information. But the value, does the iPad have more, who are our technology geniuses in this room? Does the iPad have more usefulness than the laptop? Can you plug in the iPad to a printer and print out things? Yes.
Bluetooth, you could send it to Bluetooth.
Okay.
You can wire it to USB cable from an iPad.
laptop is better.
The laptop is better. Okay, if you don't have a laptop,
You can go and see you.
the least you can do for yourself is get one of these magic phones. That's what I call them. They have another version of the, I just love the Blackberries. Yeah, I didn't want a phone like this. I was happy with my little phone for a long time. Okay, they have a new version of this one, the Blackberry, at Cable and Wireless for $175. I dropped it. I broke. It has a touch screen, and I broke the touch screen, and you have to wait to get it.
175.
Yeah. I don't know if that was because I have a contract with them. But the interesting thing is that these people at Digicel came to, actually a former student, came to visit this morning to talk about what Digicel offers. Maybe you want me to ask him to come up here next week and see if he can tell us. Because I am not the technology genius, I don't remember all of this stuff. But can he tell you, could you perhaps tell us, because you must have something that gets you into Google, that gets you into internet, and that gets you emails fast.
On the go.
You need to invest in something for yourselves.
Well, even if you have the phone, you won't be able to see it until you're on your back home. Because you cannot use it anywhere at work.
Well, you can keep it in my class. If you're expecting things, you can just say, I need to keep it at vibrate. And then say, excuse me. The bankers do that a lot. And these people who work in these private accounting firms, I feel that they must always be on call. You must always have a phone there. Okay, I can ask this guy, if he's the Digicel guy, if he can come. But if you don't have a laptop, you should get something. But probably the laptop is the best long-term investment. MacBook Pro, the details Santa, I want MacBook Pro. Okay, folks, thank you very much. Can I get a couple of extra copies of the okay. Yeah, who's going to take it? Mr. Pope. Mr. Pope, darling, what's your name? Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you. Hi, sweetheart. Let's get that sandwich. It's a long time since I've been here. Yes, please, my friend. Okay, so when we come here now, who knows how to turn this on off?
This one?
Press.
Pause.